Hello, my viewers, and welcome back to my channel. Subscribe, like, and don't forget to be part of this conversation by sharing your thoughts in the comment section at the end of this video. Now, in a stunning turn of events, President Joe Biden has announced that he will no longer seek re-election, citing the best interests of his party and the country. But that's not all. He also endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris to take the reins. Now, as the news spreads like wildfire, the reactions are pouring in, and Donald Trump is already firing off scathing attacks. The battle lines are drawn and the stage is set for a thrilling showdown. So join me as we take a look into the latest developments, analyze the implications, and explore what this means for the future of American politics. Stay tuned as different people share their thoughts on this. I will be right back.
Now that Joe Biden has announced he won't run in the next election, the attack ads are coming fast and hard, and Trump did not waste any time releasing this statement within, I think, 10 minutes of hearing that Joe Biden will not be running. He is the worst president in the history of our country. He goes down in history as by far the worst president in this country's history. He also said that he believed Kamala Harris would be much easier to beat than Mr. Biden. I think battle lines have been drawn, and watch this space. It is not going to get any less heated in terms of its rhetoric from here.
So by now you've seen that Joe Biden has dropped out of the presidential race and endorsed Kamala Harris to be the nominee on the Democratic ticket. And if you haven't seen that, I'm happy to be the one breaking the news for you. Here's what we're going to do. We are going to stand up and get full-throated behind Kamala Harris. We are ready to be coconut-pilled and ready to start fighting against Donald Trump at the Republican Party. With that being said, I am fully aware that a lot of people have reservations about Kamala Harris, and it's the people who are not in the political realm every day. I do this for work, and so I am fully aware of what she actually has accomplished and who she is as a person. But I know a lot of people, friends, family, strangers, who are going to be a little concerned that she is now up as the number one prospective Democratic nominee, because people are like, oh wait, they just don't know her, they don't like her, people are concerned about her. Here are the facts of the facts, right? She has been on this ticket of the most progressive presidential administration in my lifetime. Some would say in the lifetime of the entire country, depending on how you look at it. So she has that to run on. Whereas in 2019, when she was running a campaign, she only had a couple years as a senator and years as an attorney general to run on. Second, she is not the same person that you saw run a campaign 4 years ago. She's also not the same person you saw as vice president 3.5 years ago when all the stories about all of the staff turnover was happening. She is now running a tight ship. This is a fully functional office of people that she has working beside her that you can rely on from day one. She is a fantastic speaker. She knows what she's talking about. She has the women's reproductive rights on the agenda. She's got democracy on the agenda. She can prosecute the case against Trump being a 34-time convicted felon. She's extremely well spoken. She is young. She is much younger. She is 54 years old, and you can bet that that is going to be impactful for a lot of the youth turnout, because they said, we literally will vote for anyone else that is not 150 years old. So here's my call to action. Share this far, share this wide, share this within your soul, because this is going to be a tough 3 months. We are going out there and talking to every person who says, I'm concerned about Kamala Harris because she's not likable. You know why she's not likable, in your opinion? Is because nobody has taken the time to get to know her and make her likable. So if you just sit there, those of us that already like Kamala Harris, and say, no, actually, people do like her, don't be worried, don't be worried. That's one less person who's worried. And that's one person who will spread that to the next person who says, I'm concerned about her because I don't think people like her. And then that person will say, hey, no, actually, I heard a lot of people like her. And then that other person all of a sudden is like, no, you're right. I actually am hearing people like her. We are speaking this into existence. Any of the 2019 bullshit that she had to go through no longer exists. This is 2024. We've been through a lot.
Okay, major breaking news. Joe Biden will not be the president of the United States this year because he has just announced he is withdrawing from the race. Now, he gives very little information as to why, but he said stepping down is in the best interest for his party and the country, and that he can also solely focus on serving the remainder of his term. He then went on to endorse Kamala Harris as the Democratic nominee. Absolutely wild. So, I mean, the question is, do you guys think that this is a good or bad thing for America?
Now that Joe Biden has dropped out of the race and selected Kamala Harris as his replacement, I'm pretty good. Like, I'm good either way. A Donald Trump presidency would be awesome. We could end the wars, bring back our troops, not go to war with Russia, all those things. Those would be really great. We could reduce inflation instead of signing phony acts through actual economic policies that would benefit Americans. I would love that. However, a Kamala Harris presidency, wow. I mean, the entertainment value alone, the memes, the exposure of just how pathetic and ridiculous the Democrats and the deep state really are at running this country. Sometimes I really think you have to really hit rock bottom, for people to really learn their lesson. I feel like maybe right now, if Donald Trump gets elected and things go back and ho-hum and blah, 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 and everybody continues to hate Trump and everybody, the bickering continues, maybe we need Kamala to unite the country. Maybe we need someone so bumbling and incompetent, worse than Joe Biden, to really set us straight. What do you guys think?
I was wrong to suspect that Barack Obama was having a third-term presidency using Joe Biden as his puppet in the White House. Now I think it's a first Hillary Clinton term using Jill Biden's office as her front to hide behind. The Obamas, of course, are pulling Vice President Kamala Harris's strings. So it's interesting that Biden came on stage lately openly declaring Harris unfit for presidency, his own running mate. This points to a rift between the Clintons and the Obamas, who seem to hate each other behind the scenes. The Obamas will push hard to make Harris their president, whereas Clinton may be forced to run against Trump herself. Again, déjà vu. But neither the Clintons nor the Obamas are rich enough to buy elections. Even they have to have billionaire backers funding their advertising campaigns. So it becomes a game of who can promise to give the most to a shadowy billionaire elite. Elections then come at the expense of ordinary people. Their future is sold off for profit. Even Trump recently sounded like a car salesman because he needs Elon Musk's Tesla money to sustain his campaign. If any of this even remotely resembles the political landscape of the USA, then everything is a plot and everything is a scam. We are voting for profits and fighting for wars to keep economies running, but the interests of finance often go against the mores of the people. Gender affirmative care, for example, is big business because it puts people on a lifetime trajectory of experimental medicine and surgery. The rainbow cult guarantees the rise of a new industry of artificial wombs and designer babies born in incubation facilities. So this is where their idea of transhumanism also comes from. Genetic updates as a monthly subscription service, just the way Microsoft Windows sends you bug fixes. I'd like to know what is even the grand vision of the United States at this point. It seems to be, do whatever it takes to keep the billionaires rich and powerful. Great. Even if we have to sacrifice tens of millions of people in a third world war, we must do everything necessary to save the rich. Then the USA is being ruled by a mafia. And I'd like to know why these American billionaires seem to hate white men so much in particular. If money is all this overclass believes in, then does the hatred for white men come from this fact that white men promote a culture of saving up money rather than spending and squandering it? A culture of quietly reading into the night to learn more about certain topics rather than splurging one's wealth in one night at the club. A do-it-yourself culture of building it at home, working in one's garage, making oneself as independent as possible from the consumer culture all around. A culture of competency. A superior culture. Is this why the billionaire class hates white men? Is it because they can't monetize us? Is it because the destruction of the nation with mass immigration opens up financial opportunities to make money off of chaos? Problems exist because the solutions are profitable. They can sell the sick medication. They can sell the weak help. They can sell the ugly beauty products. But there's nothing they can sell to a man who doesn't need anything. To be honest, I don't get it. I really don't understand why the American-led Western civilization hates on its own men so much. It seems that the wealth everyone else is after derives from the very principles that we pioneered. It comes with a library card. If you say reading is an act of white supremacy, no wonder you're poor. An empty, uneducated mind can never conceive of the sort of solutions necessary to build and maintain our kind of civilization. And without such principles, the wealth will disappear like snow melting in the sun. It is, however, our people's wake-up call. It's time for our kind of men to start walking out and to begin again with a grand new vision. We will cut loose from globalism, but hold on to our culture and our principles. We will work in our garages and read late into the night, while others feverishly squander their wealth and cry they be given more. We shall put ourselves in charge of the future by doing the inner work up front. We will win with words and with patience. We will win by being the first to imagine a new future that others can only migrate to. To us, the collapse of the big cities in the West is not a loss, but a write-off, an opportunity to break free and to begin again. We will always stay ahead of the pack, for we are destined to lead.
United States President Joe Biden has reportedly notified campaign officials of his decision to withdraw from the ongoing presidential race, with an official announcement coming sometime before Sunday. Despite his withdrawal, it is not believed that he will resign the presidency or endorse another candidate like Vice President Kamala Harris. Instead, August's Democratic National Convention in Chicago is expected to be the first brokered convention since 1952, with possibly dozens of Democratic candidates vying for the nomination. Wow, some incredible news coming out, you guys. Let me know your thoughts on this. They're saying that before Sunday, he has already let campaign officials know that he is going to be withdrawing. He is not going to be endorsing Kamala Harris. Instead, they're going to have the Democratic Convention in Chicago that is expected to be the first brokered convention since 1952. It is up for grabs. He's not endorsing Kamala Harris. Anybody can go ahead and try to get access to the presidency to run against former President Donald Trump in the upcoming 2024 elections. So, like I said, this is some pretty incredible news coming out in the past 2 hours, that it looks like his campaign run is going to be coming to an end. Biden is going to be quitting. He is no longer going to be having Biden-Harris on the ticket. And I'm going to be sharing with you here in these articles that they're saying that at this present time, they believe that Harris is actually looking around for her running mate.
Breaking news, President Biden has dropped out of the race for president and endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris. The president says he plans to remain in office until the end of his term. In a letter to Americans, the president says while he intended to seek re-election, he believes it's in the best interest of his party and the country for him to step down. President Biden said he would have more to share in an address to the nation later this week. All of this announced on social media because he's still recovering from the coronavirus. The president wrote that he gives his full support and endorsement to Kamala Harris to be the nominee of the Democratic Party this year, writing, "It's time to come together and beat Donald Trump. Let's do this." This stunning news comes as calls within the president's own party have multiplied in recent days for him to step aside. Fundraising has also been a critical issue for the president since his disastrous debate performance. So what happens next? Will Kamala Harris get the nomination? Will others challenge her? Will voters have a role in who the nominee is? I'll keep you posted on what goes down.
So let me make myself vehemently clear. Click my comment back to V's post. If Biden is to step down, I don't care if it's Harris. I don't care if it's Michelle Obama. Please, Lord, let it be Michelle Obama, because that would make MAGA heads explode. And if she does show up to the national convention, I hope she's wearing a brilliant tan suit. Just as an extra little. I would vote for Major, Biden's dog. I would vote for a rock before I ever sold my soul and check the box for a man found on court documents alongside Jeffrey Epstein, like Donald Trump. MAGA can make all the excuses in the world. Y'all have sold your soul. And I hope every single time you look down at your kids' eyes, you feel ashamed of yourselves. Because Donald Trump has a history of forcing children. And as an actual Christian, I know that God sees everything and Jesus sees everything, and he sees each and every single one of you.
Cannot make this up. President Joe Biden has suspended his re-election bid, leaving Kamala Harris to take over as the Democratic nominee for President of the United States. Now, Kamala Harris will go on to the Democratic convention where delegates will decide who is going to replace Joe Biden. And it's most likely to be Kamala Harris for 3 reasons. 1, she received Joe Biden's endorsement. 2, she has a claim to the hundreds of millions of dollars that Joe Biden has in his piggy bank. Nobody else has a claim to that money, just her. 3, she has name recognition nationally. Anybody who runs against her, Gretchen Whitmer, Gavin Newsom, Josh Shapiro, anybody, is statewide. Like, they don't have the national name recognition, and they won't be able to garner that recognition within the short period leading up to the election. So Kamala will clearly be the nominee, and it's time that everybody gets behind her because she is no Hillary Clinton, okay? She is so fierce. She is so popular among young voters, black voters, all voters, that this is like, thank you, Joe Biden, for doing this.
Now, the U.S. President Joe Biden abandoned his re-election bid on Sunday under growing pressure from his fellow Democrats and endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris as the party's candidate to face Republican Donald Trump in the November election. Biden, who at 81 is the oldest person ever to have occupied the Oval Office, said he would remain in the presidency until his term ended on January 20th, 2025, and would address the nation this week. Now, Biden, who has not been seen in public since testing positive for COVID-19 last week, was isolating at his home. And he said, while it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term, Biden wrote on X. Now, the move dramatically reshapes a White House contest that has been shaken repeatedly in the last month. Biden's disastrous June 27 debate performance drove his fellow Democrats to urge him to drop out. Then on July 13, a Pew man attempted to unalive former President Trump, 78, and last week Trump named hardline Republican U.S. Senator J.D. Vance, 39, to serve as his vice presidential running mate. In opinion polls, Americans had expressed widespread dissatisfaction with a potential Biden-Trump rematch. Shortly after Biden's announcement, Trump told CNN, Harris will be easier to beat than Joe Biden would have been. Democratic National Committee Chair James Harrison said the American people would soon hear from the party on next steps and the path forward for the nomination process. It was the first time in more than a half century that an incumbent U.S. president gave up his party's nomination. Now, if Harris, 59, emerges as the nominee, she would become the first black woman to lead a major party ticket in U.S. history. A former Attorney General of California and former U.S. Senator, she ran unsuccessfully for president against Biden in 2020. My intention is to earn and win this nomination, Harris said in a statement. I will do everything in my power to unite the Democratic Party and unite our nation to defeat Donald Trump. Now, Harris' campaign officials, allies, and supporters have started making calls to secure the support of delegates for her nomination ahead of the Democratic National Convention in Chicago from August 19 to 22, multiple sources said. Democratic state party chairs held a Sunday afternoon call to discuss backing Harris as the party's nominee. Several participants said Harris has the full support of the chairs. Opposition to Biden's campaign from within his party gained steam over the past week, with 36 congressional Democrats, more than 1 in 8, publicly calling on him to drop out, driven by concerns over his mental acuity. Now, lawmakers said they feared he could cost them not only the White House, but also the chance to control either chamber of Congress next year, which would leave Democrats with no meaningful grasp on power in Washington. That stood in sharp contrast to what played out in Milwaukee last week, when Republican convention delegates united around Trump. West's refusal to acknowledge his 2020 loss to Biden sparked a January 6, 2021 assault on the U.S. Capitol. It was unclear whether other senior Democrats would challenge Harris for the nomination. She was widely seen as the pick of many party officials, or whether the party itself would choose to open the field for nominations. Now, Governor Gavin Newsom of California, who had been mentioned as a possible replacement for Biden at the top of the ticket, ticket through his support behind Harris. With our democracy at stake and our future on the line, no one is better to prosecute the case against Donald Trump's dark vision and guide our country in a healthier direction than America's Vice President Kamala Harris, he wrote. Now, two other potential challengers, Governor Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan and Governor Andy Beshear of Kentucky, issued statements praising Biden but did not mention the vice president. Now, Governor Josh Shapiro, Transportation Secretary, on Sunday issued statements backing Harris's bid. Both are among a handful of Democrats seen as potential vice presidential material. Now, as of Saturday night, Biden was telling allies that he planned to stay in the race but changed his mind on Sunday afternoon, a source familiar with the matter said. At around 13:45 p.m. today, the president told his senior team that he had changed his mind, the source told Reuters, speaking on condition of anonymity. Biden announced his decision on social media within minutes after that. Polling shows that Harris performs no better statistically than Biden against Trump. In a hypothetical head-to-head matchup, Harris and Trump were tied with 44% support each in July 15 to 16, Reuters Ipsos poll conducted immediately after the July 13 nation attempt on Trump. Now, Trump led Biden 43% to 41% in that same poll, though the 2 percentage point difference was not meaningful considering the poll's 3-point margin of error. Congressional Republicans argued on Sunday that Biden should resign the office immediately, which would turn the White House over to Harris and put House of Representatives Speaker Mike Johnson, a Republican, next in line in succession. Now, if he is incapable of running for president, how is he capable of governing right now? I mean, there's 5 months left in this administration. It's a real concern and it's a danger to the country, Johnson told CNN on Sunday before Biden's announcement. Biden's campaign had $95 million on hand at the end of June, according to a Saturday filing with the Federal Election Commission. Campaign finance law experts disagree on how readily that money could be shifted to a Harris-led campaign. Small dollar donors raised over $27.5 million on ActBlue in the first 5 hours of Harris' presidential campaign, the fundraising platform said on X. We have come to the end of the video, but I want to hear from you, my viewers. What do you think about Joe Biden's decision to withdraw from the race? Do you think it's a strategic move or a sign of weakness? And what about the competition between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump? Do you think Harris has what it takes to go up against Trump's fiery rhetoric and political machine? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Harris will be able to unite the Democratic Party and take on Trump's populist appeal, or will Trump's loyal base prove too strong to overcome? Share your thoughts and let's get the conversation started. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more news updates and more interesting videos. Thank you for always watching and see you in my next video as I bring you another interesting video.